Welcome back, guys. I hope you are having a great day. And today we're going to be going over why, in my opinion, Ateba Gautier is the only fighter that can save the middleweight division. If you guys have any potential exciting matchups you'd like to see at 185, please feel free to drop it in the comments. But aside from that, we're going to get right into it. So here's the issue at middleweight right now in the UFC. Obviously, we all know that Sean Strickland just defeated Hamzat Chimaev in their most recent bout. The issue now lies in the fact that we don't really have any other exciting matchups waiting for us moving forward at the 185 division. Sean Strickland versus Hamzat Chimaev was, in recent times, probably the peak of media coverage that a recent UFC event has received due to the bad blood, due to the hype, due to the seeming skill difference between Chimaev and Sean, with the wrestling and the fact that many people thought that Sean Strickland stood no chance in this fight. And obviously, whenever underdogs are, well, underdogs and they win, it gathers a lot of media coverage. And the possibility of them winning always gathers a lot of media coverage. But the problem here is that we know that right now the most likely challenger for the belt is Nasruddin Imavov. But the thing is, Sean Strickland already beat him, right? It was a interesting fight in the sense that it wasn't all that competitive. There was no point in that fight where I thought that Sean Strickland was in trouble of losing necessarily. So now this leads us to the next question, right? If Sean Strickland ends up beating Nasruddin Imavov, well, what's next for Sean Strickland, right? Is he going to face off against Dricus du Plessis? I mean, in most of our opinions, at least, if you're a fight fan, we watched one of their fights and we pretty much understood that Sean was robbed of his victory there. But on paper, DDP's already beaten Sean twice. So what do we really do with that, you know? Is he going to fight Brendan Allen? I mean, he's already beaten Brendan Allen. I believe it was round one or two. So that's not a competitive fight. Is it going to be Caio Borralho? I mean, maybe. Perhaps Caio could make something happen here, but that's also unlikely considering he was beaten by the gentleman on the right side of your screen. And if Imavov wins, I mean, what's going to happen there? Is he going to fight Sean again? I mean, perhaps, because at that point they would have been 1-1 in the UFC. Is he going to fight Chimaev? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but would that fight really be exciting? I don't think so. I think Chimaev will be the clear winner there, and we just have a square of fighters who have beaten the other person between Sean, DDP, Chimaev, and Imavov. So we have a big problem here at 185 is that there's no real exciting matchups to look forward to. I don't want to see DDP versus Sean again. It's pretty boring if you ask me. I certainly don't want to see Sean versus Brendan Allen, you know, just going to be a repeat of the first fight. And the only one that kind of maybe could be exciting is Caio versus Sean, but realistically, Sean is going to 50-45 him through jabs and teeps, right? As he so commonly does. So there isn't really an exciting fight to look forward to here. And even if we go on the side of Nasruddin Imavov, right? Sure, he could fight Sean for a third time. Would that be exciting? Probably not. Same is the case if he fights Chimaev. Chimaev is going to do what Chimaev does, shoot his takedowns, and once he gets tired of doing that, try to box for a bit and, go back to the takedown eventually, right? So we don't really want to see that either. And then DDP perhaps could make something exciting, but I don't really see that happening either. So where does this leave us as fight fans? And how does this tie back into Ateba Gautier? Well, the reason it does is because Ateba is the real newest blood that's actually exciting at middleweight that we've seen in recent times. You know, As we see here, he's like this mini Francis Ngannou in the sense that, you get hit by this guy and you pretty much have to go down. The last time we saw that at middleweight, and we can't even say it was Adesanya because Adesanya was like stay on the outside, stick and move, and he's going to keep touching you over and over again until you have to get stopped by the ref. But with Ateba, he's like a miniature Francis Ngannou where he has that unique KO power. He has the same fear factor that Ngannou had. And the thing about Gautier is that he's largely untested against high level grapplers. You know, he fought Ozzy Diaz, but I wouldn't really consider Ozzy Diaz a high level grappler among the likes of Shemaev, or even Sean Strickland, if you consider his anti grappling, his anti wrestling, a part of his grappling skill set, which I think it is, right? So I'd be very interested to see Ateba Gautier face a high level grappler, right? And the fact of the matter is that we just have no current exciting matchups at 185. I'm not saying that Ateba can beat the guys that we discussed before, but I feel like if he gets a couple other good tests at 185, perhaps a Brendan Allen, you know, perhaps a Gregory Rodriguez, you know, perhaps, a Jack Hermanson, I feel like we would see the level that Ateba Gautier currently is at and then determine whether or not if he could fight somebody in the rankings, such as someone like a Brendan Allen, right? This would introduce a much more exciting picture in hypothetical matchups in the top five and eventually for the belt. So this is why I'd want to see Ateba Gautier pushed more by the UFC. Of course, he is being pushed right now by the UFC, but I'm very excited to see who he fights next, especially considering the fact that he recently called out Israel Adesanya. Because as of right now, there really just isn't anything to look forward to at 185, put simply. If you guys agree, disagree, have any questions or comments in the comment section, please leave them there. And I would love to debate you guys. Peace.